Hello YouTube, this is the Booty Warrior, and holy shit guys, Starcraft II might just get a little bit more interesting over the next few months, we shall see. Now technically this is unofficial, as you can see here, but I'm hoping that this actually goes through the game. So basically, from what I understand, Blizzard doesn't really support the game anymore, and as a result the community has to make balance patches, and apparently these are going to be getting tested. Before we get into the balance patches, I want to take a look at these maps, because I'm really curious what these maps are like. Apparently we have a few different distinctions here. Macro, standard, I'm not entirely sure what standard means. So if I had to guess, before I look at these, I would guess standard map is like what we have now in the map pool. Where the third base is, it's kind of close but not too close, and it's not too far either. Whereas a macro map is probably one of those maps where the third is like behind the natural. It's like protected by the natural, and that's the only way to get in through the ground. And a rush map. So I'm wondering if a rush map is going to be like Steps of War or Blistering Sands type of rush map. That would be really interesting. Because I think that's one of the more boring things about StarCraft II, is everything just feels really safe now. And, like, the fact that they don't update the game balance-wise is lame, but if the maps were at least interesting, it wouldn't be that bad. But they don't even do that. Like, the map pool is just... there's just nothing to it. It's like the same shit over and over again. That's what it feels like. It feels like you're playing a reskin of existing maps. They didn't even fucking bother changing the map pool at all this season. And usually that's the least that Blizzard does, but evidently Blizzard is just getting increasingly fucking lazy with this game. But yeah, so let's take a look at these maps, shall we? First of all, and I do have the patch goals for the balance right here, but we're going to take a look at the maps first. See if I can give much of an opinion on them. So, I'm going to open them all up. Now, first of all, Golden Ura. Okay. Right off the bat, this reminds me of Heart of the Swarm, like Overwatch, that map. Let's see. This is one of the macro maps. So this is kind of interesting graphically. I imagine this is just like line of sight blockers right here. And it looks like these are destructible rocks in the center that you can break to get easier access, otherwise you have to go all the way around. I don't see any golden field. Oh wait, here it is. Huh. It looks like there's only one golden mineral field on this map, which is interesting, because usually they're mirrored. So, like, you'd think this would be, like, over here, but this is a blue mineral patch. Yeah, the third looks like it's pretty easy to access. The fourth actually looks like it has a lot of open areas of attack, which could be very useful if you're playing against, like, a turtle style. And it looks like this is... oh, that looks like a Xel'Naga watchtower right there. And I guess... yeah, I don't think those are collapsible rocks. I think those are just normal destructible rocks. So, you're kind of going in through like a pseudo choke point right here between the rocks and the Xel'Naga tower. And this is a really interesting defensive Xel'Naga tower. Usually Xel'Naga towers are like off to the side, and you can actually see one right here. It's really interesting, because usually you would have like a second tower over here, but see, we got two defensive ones and just the single one off to the side. So I guess this is good for like detecting flanks if you want to protect your 4th and 5th base. It could also be good for like spotting drops if they don't bother going all the way to the edge of the map. I'm not sure if this is dead space. It kind of looks like dead air right here, where only air units can go. So, imagine if you have like Broodlords attacking over here, that could be interesting. Or you can have Tempests sniping stuff off to this base. Now, as far as the main and natural are concerned, looks like there's a lot of open space here for like Liberators or Mutalisks to get around. This kind of open space is pretty standard in maps. You see this a lot with modern maps in the current pool. It looks like this is the only way to get in through the natural. It looks relatively narrow. Of course, this is also one of those annoying spots where if you're playing against Terran, you can have like siege tanks down here, picking off units in the main base, while being defended by Marines on the top ground. There could be like some elevator shenanigans here. It's a pretty wide open main though. But all the other bases look pretty claustrophobic in relation to the main, but I guess that's not too different. And the main looks about normal size, and I guess that's the destructible plates right there. This looks like it could be some good cannon rushing spots though. So yeah, I'm gonna have to be on top of making sure probes don't get back there easily if this map does end up going through. I'm hoping all the content here does so far, because anything would be more interesting than what we got now, because the game's just kind of in an awkward spot right now where there's nothing really going on anymore. And I think that's about all I can really say about that. Yeah, I'm really curious how people are going to be using these line of sight blockers, though. You can have, like, tanks on the back or even lurkers as you defend your push into, like, the 4th, or even to an extent the 3rd base if they're, like, pushed up defensively right here. Yeah, I don't see anything else worthy of note. Now we got Site Delta, which is another macro map. Oh, this has an even more narrow Reaper jump spot. I imagine this right here can't be jumped to. I'm getting a lot of Heart of the Swarm flashbacks with this map. This map pool so far. So normal distance over here. This looks like it could... So I guess if you're set up between these high ground positions, you can defend this area pretty easily. But you have to make sure you don't get caught here either, because otherwise they have high ground vision. Like, imagine having a Roach Hydra army pushing over here into a Protoss player that got lazy about its positioning. Because a lot of people will just put their units between their 3rd and natural, their main army, as opposed to positioning it in one base or the other, or like splitting it properly. I don't see any watchtowers. Oh shit, actually hold on, I didn't even think about that. Let me take a look at this again. So I think that's a pervert pillar right there. I imagine these blue things are pervert pillars. So you can at least get vision of when they're moving out, but you can't usually get vision of like the gases or anything. I am a Zerg player, so I'm a little biased when I say this, but I actually quite like the pervert pillars at the natural. I wish that was normal again, but you don't see them too much anymore. But anyway, this does have a pervert pillar right here, and it's not too close to the main either. So if you're playing Terran or Protoss or Zerg, you have to kind of go out of your way to spot the Overlord here, which is nice. It's so useful for like knowing whether or not you need to protect yourself from an all-in, just having that extra vision of the natural. A few seconds does make a huge difference. But yeah, I imagine on this map, Reaper openings, or at the very least Reaper all-ins, aren't going to be too common. I don't even know if like double Reaper openers are going to be common on this map. Probably not. Because there's not much room to maneuver. These are pretty easily defendable positions here. Like, if you're going Reaper, realistically, the only way you could really go is like up here. Which it looks like one fucking building can like block this off. If you're Protoss. And if you're Zerg, you only need like a few Zerglings here. And then you can have like your Queen defending the natural. So we got a little shortcut up here. It looks like a pretty long way around. So I imagine if you like right click to the enemy base, your pathing would go like this. You can see my mouse, right? But yeah, you would go like all the way up here. And if you wanted to go to the 3rd, maybe it'll be like right here would be the natural pathing. Or if you're attacking over here, it would probably be like da 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 da. And it looks like if you want to pressure the other player early, taking out these rocks is going to be essential. Otherwise, it is like a kind of a long way around. I find this very interesting. There's a lot of like room to... You could like put siege tanks back here, and it looks like this is protected by line of sight blockers. So, yeah, if you want to get these bases, you got to be careful about this area right here. Looks like there's a lot of pervert pillars around the map to like spot drops and stuff, which is nice. So far, the first 2 maps look like they're relatively good for Zerg, or at least okay. Now let's take a look at Oceanborn. This is a standard map. Let's see what the difference is in a standard map. I gotta be honest, I'm getting kind of sick of these blue-purple, blue-green maps. Like, it was really fun at first, but nowadays it's just getting old. I mean, it looks aesthetically nice, but I feel like you see them so much now. So, this looks like you probably can't jump up here, so it looks like this is the only way up the main with Reapers, besides, like, up here. This is a wide-open natural, though. So, if you're Zerg and you want to do a 2-base all-in, this might be a sexy area to go to. It doesn't look like it's great for, like, Nidus all-ins or anything, though. It looks like it's a lot easier to cover all your bases, all the little spots of the Fog of War, with just casual building placement, compared to the previous maps. Where there's a lot of open area off to the side. Here, it's like your base is in the middle of the entire platform. This actually looks really annoying to push into as Zerg, though. So this might be a good mech map. Because it doesn't look like it's that hard to, like, get your third base. Because you only have these two directions here. You have, like, right up here and then up here. And this is kind of generally where the mech player would be the strongest. There's a ridiculous amount of open area right here, though. That's an interesting looking doodad. I don't know what that is. I mean, I guess this is good for Zerg as well, because that means you get to protect yourself more easily from all-ins and defend your second and third. Is that an Overlord? Unless that's from here. That's the shadow being casted. It's weird. Some kind of biological doodad. But anyway, looks like there's a... That looks like it might be a pervert pillar right there, but it's not super clear. It is pretty easy to scout at least one of the gases here, though. Yeah, just really, really claustrophobic map. Like, early game, I think a claustrophobic maps is pretty good in the early game for Zerg, but when you step into mid-game and late game, depending on what your opponent's doing, it starts to get trickier and trickier. Because when you're in more narrow spaces as Zerg, it's a lot harder to get in, like, good damage. I generally avoid, unless I'm really bored of a map, I generally avoid, vetoing them. At least until I get, like, a lot of hours into it, to really feel out whether or not it's worth my time. So we got some line of sight blockers here, it looks like. Alright, well, what's the next map? Hecdate? Ooh, this is an interesting color scheme. This is like a mixture of, like, Heart of the Swarm and Legacy of the Void aesthetic design with the maps. Okay, this is a little bit trickier to push into. Well, is it really? No, it looks like it's still pretty easy to defend your third. I mean, I guess you have this flank as well, but if you have your army position, like, right here, it can't be that bad. This is a really beautiful fauna. I can't wait to see how they look actually in-game. How they actually look in-game. Anyway... Again, super claustrophobic map. Ooh, wait, what is this? Is that a straight-up bridge? I don't think I've ever seen a bridge like that in Starcraft before, where it's like... It's not even, like, completely full. There's like a wooden bridge, a fucking ghetto-ass bridge. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, I don't think that Hellion players are gonna like this map too much against Zerg. But again, like Siege Tank Thor, massive pain in the... If anything, this actually looks more fucking claustrophobic than... Like, look at how like, imagining... I'm assuming this white area is the only area you can move around in. Maybe you can touch a little bit of the green, but this is really fucking tight. Like, look at this. This is just ridiculous. But this could be good for, like, catching flanks in ZBZ, I suppose. If you can, like, set up a few units here to catch... Like, say someone's trying to do a Zergling run-by, and they kind of send their units off to the side to try to catch this, or just do a really roundabout pathing to catch you off guard on their way to the natural. Like, you could position some units here. It doesn't look like the last couple maps had any watchtowers, though. It's kind of hard to tell because of how much gold is on this map, but I don't see any... I think that's gold right there. I think there's like a mixture of blue and gold minerals. Is that what that is? Or maybe that's flowers? I can't even quite tell. I think those are gold mineral patches. Now, let's see, Solaris. What is Solaris? This more than anything makes me think of like early Heart of the Swarm maps with all the green. It's like Belshir Visage. At least like aesthetically. I think this is like a slow field right here. Maybe to like stop Overlord, or like slow down Overlords from pathing as easily to your third to like scout the main or anything. There's a permanent pillar right here, which is nice. It's really off to the side. The thirds actually look relatively well, this third looks exposed. And what is this, mirrored right here? Yeah. See, like, it looks like there's a lot of avenues of attack on this third, but this third looks easy to defend. So if I'm Zerg, I might actually prefer taking this base. Of course, we got the typical dead air to, like, send in drops and whatnot. But it looks like you can easily position units right here to catch drops as well. It doesn't look like there's enough open space to completely skip by. So if you have the damage for it, you can catch them. We got some rich gas geyser fields, which you don't see too often. Like, when it's just enhanced gas geysers and that's it. I do like it when they experiment with different mineral fields and gas fields in Starcraft II. Because when everything is just played safe, it just gets so boring. Now the next map is, and that's a rush map apparently. Let me take a look at that again. It doesn't say what the size of the map is. It doesn't really look small to me, based off of this image. But I guess the rush is really short. Now Hard Lead, which is another rush map. And those mains are wide. So we got a couple defensive watchtowers. I really like the watchtower placements in these maps. And I prefer it when... I mean, it's more convenient as a Zerg player when watchtowers can take huge chunks of the map vision in the early game. But generally, I prefer it when they just take, like, one particular position. That way it doesn't, like, feel overpowered, or it feels like you get too much benefit from getting the watchtowers. Doesn't appear like there's really a permanent pillar here. Alright, let's move on to the next map, Black Lotus, which is freestyle, apparently. I'm not sure what that means, but whatever. Let me move the microphone a little bit closer. So, apparently you can close off the path to the third, and I don't know if that's line of sight blockers or actual debris blocking this other path into the third. Or the natural, rather. Kinda hard to tell. This looks... oh my god, look at how easy to defend the third and fourth is. Oh, that's disgusting. For, like, Terran and Protoss. For Zerg, it's fucking badass, though. Not biased, I swear to god. It looks like there's a large mixture of, like, line-of-sight blockers. So I imagine taking control of the middle is going to be pretty important on this map. I guess we'll see how that works. Now, anyway, on to the most interesting bit, the patch goals. Which hopefully goes through. Well, assuming... I mean, it would probably... whatever this is, it's probably going to be better than what we have now. So... I guess I might as well give my take on the current balance of Starcraft II. I'm saying this as someone that plays the game at like a diamond level. I'm not super high tier, but I put in a lot of hours into Legacy of the Void, and I think balance-wise the game is in a decent spot, but there's a few fucked up things about it. The main issue I have is death balls, okay? In a way, a big part of the appeal of Legacy of the Void is, oh, you know this death ball bullshit you had to deal with in Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm? Let's go ahead and not do that anymore. Okay, let's get rid of that. Let's make the late game actually feel like it tests your skill in a meaningful way. And I would say this is arguably the most important thing about StarCraft II is like the balance, as opposed to the maps. Like if I had to pick between one or the other, I guess I'd rather have new balance notes as opposed to new maps, but anyway, I'm hoping that this targets Death Ball issues in StarCraft II, Legacy of the Void. Because, I mean, I guess it's not as bad as, like, Heart of the Swarm or Wings of Liberty in a way, but, you know, Mech is really hard to deal with as Zerg. And again, I'm saying this strictly as, like, a Zerg player. The game is probably fine if you're playing Terran and Protoss, but as a Zerg player, I have some complaints. Mech is way too hard to fucking kill. Mass Thor alone is way too hard to kill. The fact that they outrange your Vipers, the fact that Zerg doesn't really have a good anti... One of the issues is Protoss and Terran have like anti-spellcaster units, but Zerg doesn't really have that. The closest thing is like the Viper, but you can't really use the Viper to pick off spellcasters. I mean, you can get away with using Abduct on ghosts, I guess. Because you actually, like, if the player playing Terran casts Snipe around the same time that you cast Abduct, Abduct will actually go through before Snipe. So you can theoretically pick off ghosts like that. You could also use Fungal to stop ghosts from casting Snipe, but you're still susceptible to EMP. And EMP got buffed a little bit in Legacy of the Void with the EMP radius. And, of course, with, you know, Protoss, feedback just counters all the units. All of the fucking spellcasters that Zerg has. Like, other than rushing in and trying to just kill the High Templar real quick, or hoping you catch them out of position, there's not like an easy way for you to deal with High Templar as Zerg. Sky Toss isn't too bad on its own, but a lot of it just comes down to High Templar, to be honest. Like, I think that's ultimately what makes the game so hard in the late game for Zerg. Because technically you have units to counter Sky Toss as Zerg, but because of feedback, it's hard to really use these to their full potential. I mean, there's a few meta things that I just personally miss from the previous expansions. Like, I'm saying this as a Zerg player. I never thought I'd fucking say this in my life. But I actually kind of miss the Warp Gate meta from, like, Heart of the Swarm and Wings of Liberty. Like, I kind of miss hunting proxy pylons. I kind of miss... Zerg versus Protoss just feels so passive now. It's fucking boring as shit. Whereas in the previous expansions, I felt like there's a little bit more diversity to, like, the styles you could be up against. You could be up against cannon rushers, you could be up against, you know, people that all in with, like, Warpgate, Immortal Sentry. You don't even really see force fields against Zerg anymore. Ever since they introduced the Ravager, Protoss was like, oh, I guess I can't do that anymore. I think it would be good for, like, improving the strategic diversity of the game to bring back Warpgate all-ins, which probably not going to happen here, and that is kind of like a pipe dream. It's probably not going to be in the patch notes. But I guess in more general terms, that is a little bit more realistic. What I want out of the patch notes, before we really get into it, is I want Zerg to have better late game options. I want to avoid the stalemates. Like, that's my least favorite thing about Starcraft II, and you run into it a lot in the late game as Zerg, if your opponent is preparing his own army properly, where neither of you could really make a play, and you're kind of just awkwardly dancing in and out of each other's range, trying to slowly pick each other apart, and in my opinion, it's just really boring to play, it's really boring to watch. You see it a lot in esports lately with Zerg players. It's just really lame. Like, when I think of Starcraft II late game at its best, I think of, like, a constant back and forth. I think of fucking all-in, well, not all-ins, but, you know, harass out the ass, drops, multi-prong attacks. I mean, you think of something like Brood War, that's one of the benefits of Brood War, is you saw a lot more action around the map in general, whereas in Starcraft II, a lot of it comes down to giant army versus giant army, but when they both counter each other, again, it causes this weird stalemate situation, where it starts to feel like whether or not you win relies way too much on luck, rather than, oh man, you did this super intelligent play. It was like, no, your opponent misclicked his High Templar, and he lost them for free, or some stupid shit like that. And there's probably a few other things. I also miss units like Infestors being better. Like, I know that fucking Blizzard has PTSD because of the Broodlord Infestor era, but, like, Fungal's fucking garbage, man. Neuroparasite is fucking garbage. None of these things feel good to use. They don't feel consistent. They don't really serve much of a purpose, and they don't do their purpose very well. Like, in Wings of Liberty, Fungal added so much extra damage to your army, and, you know, you could, like, root targets, and then in StarCraft Legacy of the Void, they're just like, okay, it doesn't root anymore, and it also doesn't deal damage anymore. Like, it deals 30 damage and that's it. Really boring. And, you know what, I also want the Swarm Host to be more interesting. I don't know if this I don't know if this patch notes thing brings up Swarm Hosts. I don't see Swarm Hosts here. Anyway, let's read from the top. Okay, enough rambling, let's get on with it. Okay, so the patch goals are the following. Make Protoss more stable on a professional level in the early game versus Raven pushes, and more able to fight Terran mid to late game armies without solely relying on disruptors. Yeah, I do feel like I've been seeing Disruptors a lot in pro play against Terran, which is really weird, because theoretically Disruptors would be awful against Bio because of how fast Bio is. But I think this is because of how strong the Ghost is now, where it just feels like it's too easy to counter High Templar. And honestly, I'd rather deal with High Templar as opposed to Disruptors as Terran, or in a Zerg as well. My main complaint with the High Templar really is feedback, not necessarily Psionic Storm, honestly. Now, increase the variety in the mid and late game army compositions by reducing the strength of Mass Ghost, Banelings, and Disruptors. Huh. Okay. I mean, Banelings are really important against Terran if he's going Bio, but I guess theoretically, like, maybe this is going to make Ravagers better, maybe even make Lurkers better. I wouldn't mind that. I honestly wish the Disruptor would, I wish the Disruptor was like an A-move unit, honestly. Like, I wish they made it operate almost exactly like the Reaver, where you can like, increase the cooldown to, like, compensate or whatever. To me, the Disruptor makes more sense as an A-move unit as opposed to something you have to, like, manually cast a spell and aim it. I like being able to control the projectile itself, but... eh. It just feels kind of clunky to use, and you combine that with the fact that it can't move while the ball is out, like, ugh. Make over-specialized units, Cyclones, Mothership, and Infestors viable throughout more stages of the game. Bring more visual clarity to important units on the minimap, as well as relevant abilities like Widowmine targeting and Disruptor's cooldown indicator. Okay. That would be nice, like knowing whether or not the Disruptor is dangerous again. You don't have to necessarily have it be a ball. You can also add, like, a visual graphic where, like, their Purification Nova can, like, get bigger and bigger as it gets ready to, like, fire off another shot. Promote more interaction in late-game scenarios by making units such as Tempest, Mothership, and Broodlord more maneuverable. Okay, good, good. First of all, we got Terran. Alright, so the Cyclone. I only saw a little bit of this and it already kind of blew my mind. Because I was watching another YouTube video cover part of this before I was like, okay, I'm going to make a video of myself on it. But anyway. Cost reduced from 150 to 100 to 125 to 50. Tech lab requirement removed, which would mean you can actually double pump Cyclones in this new patch. Health reduced from 120 to 100. Armor reduced from 1 to 0. And supply cost reduced from 3 to 2. So this is really interesting so far. It seems like they really want this to be a, like a core part of the army composition of mech, which I would definitely prefer that as opposed to siege tanks and Thors. And, you know, maybe just by making Cyclones easier to get, it will discourage people from getting as many, Thors and tanks, which is nice. And Cyclones aren't really that bad. They're not that hard to deal with. You know, get Hydra Ling. And I think when you get enough Mutalisks, you can even kill them pretty easily. At least before they get a critical mass. And of course, you add Infestors and... oh yeah, Banelings as well. Actually very good. Banelings are, like, shockingly effective against Cyclones. And it looks like with this patch, unless they end up nerfing the Baneling, they're going to be even better into Cyclones. Let's hope they don't nerf Banelings too much. If they do it at all. I would kind of prefer if they just made units like the Lurker better. Or even Ravagers better. Auto attack range increased from 5 to 6. See, attack speed now 11. +2 versus armored. Okay, so it's going to be an anti-armor unit. Lock-on now uses Cyclone auto attack range. +1 damage per weapon upgrade. No longer ignores armor. No longer has a delay before first shot, and maintains weapon cooldown between lock-ons. Wait, lock-on cooldown removed. Lock-on cast range reduced from 7 to 6. Lock-on mechs range reduced from 15 to 9. Multiple Cyclones will now auto-cast lock-on onto the same target. Magfield Accelerator upgrade removed. I believe that's the one that made it more powerful against massive units. I think that's the upgrade. Move speed reduced from 4.73 to 3.6. Wow, that is massive. And now you have to, like, upgrade their move speed to 5.1. So, if you get the upgrade, they're actually faster than they were in the last patch. This is really interesting because before, like right now, they have more of a focus on focusing down massive units and This looks like it's going to reduce their effectiveness in infinitely kiting units, which is nice. They're going to be cheaper, they're going to be easier to mass, but they're also going to be faster. I wonder what the Hellion move speed is. I mean, they might change it in the patch notes, like 5.95. So it's going to be a little bit slower than the Hellion, but not too much. Redesign of the Cyclone to make it a more all-around unit in all matchups. Aims to increase the viability of mech-based play against Protoss while promoting more active engagements with mech-based armies. Cool. I always prefer... oh shit. I always prefer aggressive mech as opposed to turtle mech. Turtle mech is just too frustrating. It feels like you're fighting an uphill battle as Zerg against turtle mech. Because, like, the other guy is basically being rewarded for sitting on his ass the whole game, and he just has this retarded hard army to kill, man. I'm hoping they nerf the Thor. My main concern is... first of all, my main issue with the Thor is in the bonus mode they gave them in Legacy of the Void. It's just too good. It gives them way too much anti-air range, it deals way too much damage, and it looks like it's good regardless of whether it's shooting at ground targets or air targets. Like, in my opinion, one mode should be better for one mode. Like, okay, it should be set up. If you have to have the two modes on the Thor, it should at least be set up to where if you pick one mode, it's better against ground, and the other mode is better against air. But right now, it's like, oh, do you want to do a shitload of damage with the secondary mode against everything? Or do you want to get the normal mode that deals slight splash damage to air units, but has less DPS overall? Like, it feels like as Terran, you're always going with the secondary mode. Like, it just feels like it's objectively better, even against, like, a bunch of air units. When you get around 10, 15, 20 Thors, the DPS is shockingly large. The combination of their DPS and their health makes them very hard to kill and trade effectively with. You basically can't really, like, unless you literally abduct units as Zerg without losing anything, which is hard to do because Thors do outrange Viper's abduct. It's very difficult, if not impossible, to trade efficiently into Thors as Zerg. Anyway, Ghost. Snipe damage reduced from 170 to 130. Plus 40 versus Psionic. So I guess they're still one-shotting High Templar. EMP radius reduced from 1.75 to 1.5. But I imagine the upgrade to increase it is still there. Reducing the radius of EMP will encourage Protoss to use Psystorm in the PvT matchup and help in straight-up engagements versus Terran armies. Snipe will no longer one-shot units such as Zelts and Roaches, as well as require an extra shot to kill Ultralisk in the late game versus Zerg. Generally reducing their cost efficiency over time while still being able to kill important spellcasters such as Vipers. So they might be quite a bit worse against Lurkers, at least. Widowmine. Drilling Claws now also makes the Widowmine unburrow twice as fast. Okay, cool. Targeting line is now more visible. Alright. Return some of the strength to active Widowmine Micro in the mid-game versus Zerg that was lost after the Drilling Claws burrow speed nerf. I didn't even know they nerfed that. While not significantly reducing the power of Widowmine drops. Medevac. Speed upgrade replaced with the reactor. Increases energy regen rate by 100%. Wait, Medevac had a speed upgrade? I didn't even know that. See, to me, they already had Medevac boost, so why would you need, like, a normal move speed boost as well? Minimap radius increase from 0.75 to 1. Oh, awesome! They're gonna make it a lot easier to notice Medevacs with Overlords. Replaces the current unused Medevac upgrade with an upgrade. Aha! Haha! It was unused! See, that just goes to say... Man, my voice cracked hard. That just goes to prove how redundant that upgrade is with the Medevac boost. Could be used in active games with a large Medevac count that runs out of energy. I'm not sure how to feel about that, because that's like one of the big things you could do to like counter Medevacs, is like get them to drain a lot of energy. And I don't know, I feel like Bio doesn't really struggle in the sustain department, so this might make Bio armies a little bit more obnoxious. So I guess you can't really bait out Medevac energy the same way you used to, which kind of sucks. Previously, medevacs could appear smaller on the minimap on large maps, okay? Interference Matrix now requires an upgrade, okay? A single Raven opening can currently disable multiple key defensive units in early pushes against Protoss. The cheap cost of the upgrade still allows for multiple Raven play in TBT and specialized builds in TVP. I play Zerg, so this means nothing to me. I feel like I rarely ever see the Matrix attack. The Matrix ability, rather. I know you see it a little bit in TBT in the early game. Like, Raven openers are relatively common in TBT from what I know, but I don't really see it much in Terran versus Protoss. Alright, my favorite part. What do you got for me, motherfuckers? Okay, Zerg, Lurker. Adaptive Talon's move speed bonus removed. I did not even know that Lurkers had a speed upgrade. I know that Talon's increases the burrow and unburrow speed, but I did not know it also increased the base movement speed, if I'm reading this right. Cost reduced from 150 to 100. As some of the main counters to the Lurker are getting nerfed, reduce the speed of repositioning the Lurkers in the late game. Pathogen Glands upgrade removed. Ooh! Infestor starting energy increased from 50 to 75. That means you actually get to start with the ability to cast at least one Fungal, which is nice. Fungal growth cast range reduced. Reduced? Motherfucker, please. This spell is already sucking balls. What? They make it even worse? Oh, hey, you can cast Fungal when you, spawn an Infestor. Oh, cool. Is it useful? No. I don't know why you think it would be useful, but, you know, you can cast Fungal. It doesn't do anything, but, you know. Like, you're not increasing, like, at least increase the slow. Like, this is stupid. Did I go into a coma and wake up and Fungal became relevant? It's not even half as good as it was in Wings of Liberty. I don't understand why people nerf the Infestor more and more. It's a worthless ability. It doesn't deal damage. It doesn't slow. It's fucking dog shit, and it lasts like 2 seconds. This actually triggers me. Okay, fucking... I bet a Terran made this patch. Since the Infested Terran ability was removed, the Infestor had no utility until reaching 75 energy. Fungal damage is reduced to prevent Infestors from killing Marines with 2 consecutive Fungals. And as a trade-off to the EP radius nerf in the TBT late game. But like, bro! What? But medevacs! Literally medevacs! You can't just kill Marines with 2 Fungals! I'm pretty sure that medevacs completely counter that. You don't even see Infestors that much against Terran anyway. Like, people use Fungal. No one uses Fungal for damage. Bio is like the one thing that Fungal is halfway decent against, and it's not even that good as soon as medevacs get to like a good enough number. So they're making medevacs stronger in this patch, while making Fungal even worse? Like, okay, I guess I'm just not making fucking Infestors anymore. Okay, air armor upgrade costs reduced from 150... Okay, that's cool. Air armor is generally considered less useful than the air weapon to upgrade despite being more expensive. And I guess this will make it a little bit easier to get like air armor upgrades in ZBZ. Because when you're playing Muta versus Muta, you generally want the armor before damage. Not that you see Mutas that much in ZBZ anyway, but... Yeah, I mean, if you're playing Zerg and you want to transition into air in the late game, like, this is a little bit better for that. If you weren't already setting yourself up from, like, layer tech onwards for a air transition. Viper. Consume damage reduced from 100 to 150. Reduces the attention required for gathering Viper energy. Cool. Move speed increased from 2.24 to 2.62. Broodling move speed reduced from 5 to 4. And they're squishier. They don't deal a lot of damage. Continuing in the direction of the last balance update, further increasing Broodlord mobility, while further reducing the strength of Broodlings to compensate. Should allow for more active play in the late game. I don't know how I feel about this, because, like, giving Broodlords more move speed is nice, but... like, you might as well turn it into a Guardian if you're gonna make the Broodling more and more worthless, you know? That's why, like, if I had to compare Guardians to Broodlords, I actually prefer the design of Guardians. Like, yeah, I guess Guardians are more boring, quote-unquote. But, like, the Broodlord, the fact that you have to balance out the fact that the attack itself has to deal damage, you have the sustained damage of the Broodlings, as well as how they draw aggro from ground units and fuck up their pathing. Like, when I see this, it's like, more move speed is nice, I guess. And I guess I would prefer the Broodlord itself have more damage than the Broodlings it spawns, but at the same time, it's like, why even have the Broodling mechanic if you're just gonna make it worse and worse? Test mod to do, make this not affect Broodlings from building deaths. Okay. De-acceleration speed increase from 1.49 to 2.6. I'm not sure what that means. You can generate creep faster, okay. You can already generate creep pretty fast with Overlords, but that's nice. Reduce the amount of time it takes for Overlords to stop and begin dropping creep to allow for more active usage of Queen drops. Transport upgraded. Ooh, this is actually fucking badass. Well, is it? Move speed increased from 0.9 to 1.09. Move speed with Numenized Carapace increased from 2.62 to 2.83. Non-transport upgraded Overlord's move speed are unchanged. Allow for more active drop usage in combination with the Baneling damage nerf should not increase the overall strength of Baneling harass against Protoss. Yeah, I mean, I guess any buff to transport Overlords is nice, because it really is, like, way too slow compared to, like, Medivacs and even Warp Prisms. I mean, I'm sure it'll still be pretty slow with this, but they're also a lot easier to get. I guess I'll have to play around with it and see how it feels. Part of the issue with Overlords, too, is, like, transport Overlords in the late game are way too easily countered by, static defense. So it's possible this will give you a little bit more time to react. I don't know, like, maybe it'll even be worth it to get, like, air upgrades for transport Overlords in the late game, if it's that much cheaper than it used to be. Now, the Ultralisk. Because I like the idea of, like, transport Overlords being more common, but, yeah, they're not very practical, to the point where you're more likely to see people harassing with Nidus Worms than you are with Overlords, even though transport Overlords are theoretically better, and, like, easier to access. Cost reduced from 300 to 275. Slight nerf to the minerals, that's nice, I guess. I don't know a single person that uses the burrow and unburrow mechanic on the Ultralisk, but I guess it's nice making it a little bit less clunky for that purpose. You can do ambushes or something. And, you know, if you're up against an opponent that doesn't have a lot of detection, you're harassing bases or sending out squads with Ultras, I guess this does allow you to, save your Ultralisks a little bit more easily. Lurkers and Broodlord are generally favored over Ultralisks in the late game, as Ultralisks have poor cost efficiency over time, to make them more used throughout long games while not greatly reducing the initial investment. I don't really use the Ultralisk too often in general, because most of the time my games are decided long before then, or I'm like up against an opponent that's kind of already countering Ultralisks anyway. I like Ultralisks, especially that old school skin I got, but I feel like I rarely have time to use them. Ooh, a lot easier to transition into Hydralisks now, so Roach Hydra players, you're in a much better position now. Or even going like Hydra Ling Bane is still pretty good. Increase the speed at which Hydras come online in the mid-game for more quickly responding to enemy air switches such as Mutalisks, and to supplement weaker Banelings against ground-based armies. Cool. Strength of Hydra-based timings will be monitored versus Protoss during the testing period. Oh yeah, thanks for reminding me. Because I've already been doing like early Hydralisk all-ins against Protoss, so I'm curious how that's gonna be. I guess it depends on like how much they buff Protoss in this patch, because, I mean, as long as Protoss is well equipped to deal with Hydralisk pushes, like, it shouldn't be that bad. Okay, right off the bat, I think the main thing they should do is make Colossi better than they are. I would almost say, like, they should make Colossi as good as they were in the previous expansions. Because at this point, it feels like it's not even that hard to counter those types of units anymore. And honestly, I would rather fight Colossus-based armies than fucking Skytoss at this point. Okay, Boneling... Boneling. The Baneling. Okay, bonus damage per upgrade reduced from 2 +2 versus light to 2 versus all. Centrifugal hooks cost reduced from 150 to 100. It's a little bit faster of an upgrade now. The health bonus is removed. Will no longer one-shot probes or drones with +2 attack. Fair enough, I guess. Like, yeah, it should probably consistently take at least 2 banelings to wipe out, like, a clump of probes and SCVs, etc. See, reducing the volatility of defending baneling run-bys by requiring multiple banelings to kill workers. The speed upgrade will require less of an investment to maintain a similar balance for 2-based Terra Marine tank-based all-ins. I actually don't have, like, a huge problem with this. It's fine. And banelings were already still pretty good, even before the health bonus was added on to centrifugal hooks, so... yeah, that's fine, I don't have an issue with that. Shield upgrade cost reduced from 150. Yeah, shield upgrades are generally not purchased until, like, ultra late game. And it's always nice to make upgrades a little bit more attractive for Protoss, or any race, really. It doesn't feel good when you just have upgrades and mechanics that are just way too expansive to use. Cybernetics core, air armor upgrade cost reduced. Oh my god, you're making Skytoss better, fuck you. Same as air weapons. Okay, air armor is generally considered less useful than air weapons, despite being more expensive. Warp Prison, minimap radius increase from 0.8 to 1, so they're going to be a little bit easier to spot, that's nice. Supply cost increased from 3 to 4. Model scale reduced by 9%. Radius increased from 0.5 to 0.6. Does not affect collision with buildings. So they're making them fatter and take a lot more... yeah, I guess this is just a nerf to disruptors. It is currently hard to tell which disruptors have Purification Nova available when multiple are clumped together as the models intersect with each other. Oh, okay. The goal of supply cost increase is to reduce the potential of mass disruptor armies while still allowing Protoss players to use disruptor as a strong mid-game and late-game tool. Void Ray. Prismatic alignment move speed with flex veins. And, man. Oh, wait, yeah. Actually, I think there was a bug with prismatic alignment where if you get flex veins, if you turn on prismatic alignment, it actually makes them slower than before you get the flux veins upgrade. So maybe that's what this is targeting? Yeah, that's what they're talking about right here. Allows for players to actively micro void rays in late game engagements without needing to cancel prismatic alignment. Okay, that's fine. I mean, I don't even like the idea of flux veins on void rays because to me, the void ray is more like an A move, like powerhouse type unit when you get like enough of them. So to me, it doesn't really make sense to make a unit like that super fast. Let's see, acceleration, but you know, they're at least addressing a bug that wasn't supposed to be there to begin with, so that's nice. Acceleration. I'm not really a big fan of void rays in general. I think they're just really fucking boring units. They're just anti-armor units, and they don't really take any micro. They don't feel particularly good to use, aside from like trolling cheese all-in builds. And they're not very fun to fight against, especially as Zerg. Let's see, de-acceleration increased from 2.1 to 4.2. Radius model skill reduced by 10%, making them a little bit less clunky. I guess that's okay. And yeah, I'm not a big fan of the mothership, but you don't even see the mothership anymore. So I guess it's nice. And I guess motherships in general aren't as good as they were in like Wings of Liberty. They don't have Vortex or anything. Like, it's just mass recall, that slowdown ability, and that's about it. Man, remember in the Wings of Liberty beta when they gave the mothership a time stop ability and it actually slowed down projectiles? That'd be really interesting if they kept it. I mean, probably not balanced, but now it's just a generic move speed reducing ability. I don't even know if it affects air units. I know it at least affects ground units. Supply cost reduced from 8 to 6. Build time reduced from... oh, you get up way faster. Speed increased from 2.6 to 2.8. What's the term? It's a little bit more, sensitive. It's more of, it's easier to take down, which is nice. Reduced by 20%. No longer has energy. Wow, so now it's entirely cooldown dependent, huh? Recall now has a 1.10, or 110 second cooldown. Recall radius reduced from 6.5 to 5. Time warp is 60 seconds. Time warp radius reduced from... yeah, they're just nerfing it. Time warp cast reduced... cast delay reduced from 1.79 to 0.71. It looks like they're just making the mothership fucking bad. Like, it doesn't really make any sense. Like, I guess it's supposed to be more of like a utility unit now. And that's why... What is the cost of this thing? Let's take a look at that. So I guess they're just making it easier to access, but they're turning it into more like a utility-based unit instead of like this big fuck you type unit that just moves around with their army. Which I guess isn't the worst idea in the entire world. And it doesn't look like it actually takes that much of your supply from you, at least. I guess we'll have to see how that plays out. But in a lot of ways, it looks like it's just flat out worse than it was before. And it wasn't a very good unit anyway. Honestly, I think the mothership in its current state is really, really boring. Like, it only has 2 abilities, and it can, like, passively cloak units. It doesn't really add that much to your army. Vortex was way more interesting. Let's see, Sentry, Guardian Shield duration increased from 10 point... Okay, just increased by 2 seconds, okay. Allows Guardian Shield to be precast before engaging Terran armies involving ghosts, lasting longer into the fight. Stasis Ward sight range increased from 4 to 7. Oh, so they're used more for map vision. And I guess that makes sense thematically with the Oracle, that the ward can give you information. Barrier will now also block the first instance of damage which triggers the barrier. Counts towards 100 damage blocked by the barrier. Currently, EMP hitting an Immortal will drain all of the Immortal shields as well as activating the barrier, which will generally expire before the Immortal ends up receiving other damage, making the unit heavily fall off in the mid-game against Terran. Huh. Added missing mothership HP shields change. Yeah, is there any other information here? I guess AM is like America? Yeah, I guess I'll take a look at that map and see how it plays later. But right now, I have some mixed feelings about the map pool, or excuse me, the balance notes. I don't like how they're making the Infestor worse. But I guess it's mostly fine. There's not too much sticking out as being particularly, like, problematic. Hydroless timings are going to be real fun to use, though. Aside from, like, maybe encouraging mech players into using Cyclones more, I don't think this really addresses the Death Ball issue, though, that I mentioned. Which kind of sucks, but... you would probably have to change a lot more about Starcraft II from the ground up to really address that, so I guess it's understandable that you're not just going to fix it in this one thing. But yeah, that's my feelings about the Starcraft II upcoming patch notes. Assuming this actually does go through, which... Yeah, I guess I don't really use Infestors that much anyway. But yeah, see you guys next time. Hope you guys enjoyed this. And yeah, I am going to be trying out the balance map quite a bit to see how everything feels. Probably mostly Zerg.